This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, I think there is some snack there. Quickly, I'll begin with the sentence of my introduction. I have like more than 6.5, almost running 7th years of my experience with DevOps, and I have been into both AWS and Azure. So DevOps is a very beautiful world, irrespective of which technology you come from, and it doesn't really matter if you know coding or not. You just have to, as per my understanding, my experience says uh, that if you are trying to put your hands in DevOps, the only criteria, the only thing which it demands is you have to be a little strong in the DevOps concept. So primarily, you need to understand the end-to-end flow. And then I will say secondary part comes when you actually have to be technically a bit stronger. So as you see, as I can see, majority of you guys are coming from testing background, and these days most of the people are moving to testing background. And the other day, some person also happened to message me and ask me for uh, quick suggestions whether she is a performance test engineer as well, and she wants to migrate to DevOps and whether it's a good choice or not. So quickly, I just wanted to give you an understanding of what DevOps is and how different it is from people are understanding these days, and whether if I'm coming from different technology stream, or what if I'm coming from a typically non-IT or administration or analyst team, am I perfect suit for this DevOps? So we will be covering all these points in the session. So I have prepared the deck, which I'll be sharing it right now. Please uh, confirm if you guys are able to see my screen. Just a second. Yeah. Are you guys able to see my screen?
Yep.
Yep. Thank you. So now, quickly, um, I'm going to start from the scratch of how the current scenarios of product cycle in companies or in project happens. I think it would be very cliche for me to start from the training, like how the freshers get trained. But as you all guys come with a prior experience, so I'll quickly wind up this first slide just for a better understanding of how a life cycle of an application happens. If you have any questions, yes, I'm completely available and dedicated. So as you can see on my screen, we have three images on the left side. Please confirm if everybody is able to see my screen, because I don't want to run forward and then get to know that somebody had a snack. Yes, okay. All right, sir. So on the left hand side, you see waterfall model, right? So previously, what the methodology projects implemented was a waterfall model. We everybody know bits and pieces about that. Now, what exactly is a waterfall model? It's nothing but a set of designs, set of thinkings, set of processes, which helps you to build an application in a project in a sequence manner. As you can see in the diagram, it states all that first you gather all the information, then you design, then you implement that, all the coding and all, and then you verify whether the product is good or not, and then you have the maintenance. So the biggest challenge what people came across in having this waterfall model is when, let's say, when you are in implementation phase, or let's say where you are in verification phase. Verification is nothing but your quality assurance phase. So when you are into that, and if you face any challenges or any hurdles, the challenge or the drawback basically in the waterfall model is any step that creates a hurdle brings you back to the first step, that is requirement phase. So let's say this is the month of November and I started all the requirements, and in the year 2020 March, I was doing my verification and suddenly I got to know that there are some errors. So again, the waterfall model suggests me, okay, in the month of March, you need to again go back to the requirement phase and start from there. So unnecessarily, it was consuming time, energy, and basically it was not yielding enough productivity and efficiency. So this was a main drawback of the waterfall model. And people have stopped using waterfall models since a long time ago. So the replacement, what a majority of the projects have adopted, is agile. Most of you might have heard about it. So uh, what exactly is agile? See, all the steps more or less likely will be the same. The only difference is every phase will have in a defined time window that is called as sprint. I will go deep into the agile methodology later in my sessions, but it would be very difficult for you guys to cope up with the terminologies in the first session. So, which is why I will go with basic words and terminologies from agile. Like if you are a developer or a tester or a support guy, it means that in a single sprint, you all guys need to work together. Means the sprint will be of 2 weeks and the requirement will be given to you. That requirement will not be the complete requirement of the application. You have to deal, you have to start with all the chunks of information given to you, develop the piece of code, go back to the testing scenario, and then deploy it into stage environments, and then simultaneously production. So everything happens simultaneously in sequence. Let's say, considering the same scenario what we saw in the waterfall model, like if you came across some error in the QA phase, just ultimately at the same time you go back to the dev team, request a bug or create a PBI saying that this is this, you have to fix this, and in no time they will be working on fixing it, and immediately you will have that code ready in QA for your testing. So if you see, these are the two models side by side on my screen. On the bottom of it, I have some text written: traditional waterfall model, agile model, and then DevOps approach. Just a second, let me, yeah, minimize this. Yeah. So in the DevOps approach, it basically says that the requirements change frequently and the development needs to be agile, operation needs to be agile. So this is what exactly I mean to say by agile, the following the process and the methodology. All right. So do you have any question on slide number 1?
No, not from my side.
Okay. Abhishek, I see there are a couple of messages from your side. Please update if there is any technical difficulties. No, there have been no technical difficulties. I was waiting for other folks to join, so which is why I started a bit later. Apologies if you had to wait. So moving on to the next slide. Okay, so this is more of like an introduction, and then I'll come to your performance testing part, or basically the QA part, how it can be integrated, or what exactly you need to jump in or onboard to DevOps. Okay, everything will be covered. Just be patient with each slide. I'm not going to, as I said, I'm not going to take much time on the classical concepts of each project. Okay, so Tarun, can you please keep yourself on mute? Thank you. So on my screen, you see there are a couple of phases in the pipeline. First, we have build, test, and then release. So keeping everything aside, if people ask you what is DevOps, what is going to be the answer for it? I know there are a lot of textbook related answers. I know there are a lot of articles available on the internet. But per my experience, what exactly is DevOps? People say it is a combination of dev and ops, which is very cliche. And people say it is a strategy or a culture or a practice or tools, blah 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 blah. But I'll give you a very quick, efficient, and an easy answer. See, there is a development team. The purpose of development team is to write the code, push it into the repository, and keep everything ready. There is a QA team. Their purpose is to test the code, whatever is there in their QA server. There is a maintenance team which happens to monitor the application and the servers. So my definition of DevOps is the team which binds all these rest of the teams, by which I mean to say DevOps binds the development team, QA team, and operations team in a single belt to enhance smooth flow of your code from one environment to other environment. Make sense? See, I'll repeat again. DevOps is nothing but it is a binding of each team or each environment in a single belt. Let's say there is a code, okay, and that code is residing in a repository. And there is a development team has their own server. You guys are with me, right? You're imagining a repository. You guys are imagining a dev team. You guys are imagining dev server. So, and there is a QA team. They also have QA servers. And there is an operation team, by which I mean to say maintenance team, support team, basically. They also have their own server. So now the code is there in the repository. Basically, we cannot take the raw code and give to the testers to test, right? We have to bundle it, basically build the code. So DevOps team comes into the picture of securing the code. Basically, they have all the right on the repository. They can lock the repository, they can create branches, everything. So in this session, in this entire course, I am going to cover much on the repository part as well. So their responsibility is to maintain a good knowledge on the repository part. And then what they do, they take the code from the repository, build it. When they build it, they deploy it onto dev, they deploy it onto QA server, they deploy it onto maintenance servers, they deploy it onto production servers. So here, DevOps team, what they are doing is once the developer says, I'm done with the coding, now they are coming to the picture. Who? DevOps team is coming into the picture. They are taking the code from the repository, building it, and deploying it everywhere. So this is binding all the teams together in a single belt by enabling them to do their activities, by enabling QA to perform their quality analysis on the QA server by deploying their code onto QA servers. This is how DevOps is playing its part. You can say it is dev plus ops, you can say it is a practicing of tools, etc., etc. But what is the essence of DevOps? Why do you need DevOps in the real time project scenario? Is that because you need a team to have a smooth flow of an application from one environment to the other by building it from the repository and deploying it onto respective servers. So this is how it goes like. On my screen, you see there are three phases: build, test, and release. So this is what a pipeline looks like. Now, you might have heard about pipelining. You might have also heard about a term called orchestration. There is a very good terminology in DevOps called orchestration. Orchestration is nothing but a superior word of pipelining. It means more or less the same, basically. So what exactly is a pipeline? What do you mean by pipeline? When people say create a pipeline for me, you included that in the pipeline? What exactly is the meaning of that pipeline? It means that when you have a code in the repository, you create a job to pull that code, build it, and produce the built version, which we call as package. Okay, you create a job for building, you create a job for deploying, you create a job for testing. What is this job, sir? Job is nothing but set of commands. That's it. You just need to add some set of commands. One command to pull the code, one command to build the code, one command to produce the package. Simple, sir. Done with your building. Coming to the testing part, one command to fetch the package from build, one command to, let's say if you're working on a .NET project, you need to have a .dll file, one command to read that DLL, and if you're working on a Selenium project, then you provide the test case filter. Similarly, one command given. And then you talk about the release part. Release is nothing but deployment. When you say this release is happening on to this date, this release, it means that you are going to deploy the code. All right. So it release, what does it has? It again has the same set of commands, like you are fetching the code, basically the package, and then copying it, connecting to the target server, and then executing the deployment part. So this is how build, test, and release combining together becomes a pipeline. You make sense? You guys understand? Now, on this below of the slide, you see there is a Venn diagram of three circles. One circle says development, the other says QA, third says technology operation, and then the one which combines together is called DevOps, which is what exactly we discussed just now. Now coming to the next slide. Before I move to next slide, may I know if you guys have any questions, or are we good to move?
I do have a question here.
Yes, please.
Okay. So for the DevOps, sorry, the Agile, in Agile also people use the same, right? They use to check in their codes in the repository and then you create a build and you deploy it. And again, for DevOps also, you're saying the same. So what is the difference then there?
Correct. This is the most kind of clashing question that I get every time. What is the difference between Agile and DevOps? See, Agile is a, you please pay attention to my words. Agile is a methodology and DevOps is a practice. Agile is you have defined certain set of principles, and DevOps you are practicing that. Make sense? I'll give an example. In Agile, you are telling the project, okay, at the time of gathering the details, you can also simultaneously work on development part. You can also work on QA part. You can also work on releasing part. You are telling the project, and DevOps is practicing that. DevOps is actually the practical part of your Agile methodology. Okay,
Okay,
makes
okay.
sense?
Yeah, yeah. And one more question. So even during the Agile, we use this CI, the continuous integration, where it
Mm,
automatically, whatever you said, the pipeline, we build pipeline and we do it. So we call that
mm.
in Agile. So
No. See, CI is the backbone of DevOps. You cannot say it's a part of Agile or something. Yes, CI concept is given from Agile. See, but basically, what is CI, continuous integration, for others to understand? The continuous integration is, just now as we discussed, there is a repository in the and it is hosting a lot of code, and I need to make sure that QA team is having their piece of package for testing. So as a DevOps person, what my job is to take that code, build it, and give it deploy it onto QA environment. So necessitating or facilitating this entire process is called a CI. Basically, whenever the developer checks in the code, Immediately a build should happen and the code should be there in QA. So this is called as continuous integration. I'll be discussing that more in detail when maybe in the tomorrow's session. But the main essence, the main concept behind continuous integration is whenever a developer checks in the code, immediately a build should trigger. We can do that. We can do that. So Agile is telling immediately if the code is ready, QA should happen. And implementation of that point is continuous integration. Make sense, sir?
Yeah, but that is the same for even DevOps, right? My question is, you're doing it already in Agile. It's not like a principle. We are doing that in Agile itself. So then, how different the DevOps comes here?
No. I think I might have to repeat myself again. Agile is just a methodology. Okay. If you're doing something, see, Agile defines you product backlog. Agile gives you, see, in Agile, there are all methodologies. Agile concept says if you say your project is on agile methodology or agile model, what does it mean, sir? It means that there are restricted number of people in the team. Again, that comes from the methodology. You see, you say that daily stand up call, and apparently as per agile methodology the daily stand up call should not last more than 10 minutes. That is a methodology again. You have a product owner, you have a sprint backlog. What is a sprint, sir? Again, as I mentioned, it is a duration of window that helps you to deploy a piece of application from dev to production. That is a sprint. So it basically is a set of methodologies. It is not an implementation. Yes, CI is a functional concept given from Agile, but you cannot say that in Agile I am implementing CI via this. Yes, it is a methodology or a principle provided by Agile, and DevOps is practicing that.
Okay.
Make sense, sir?
Yeah, I understood what you explained about the Agile, but DevOps is still unclear. But that's fine. I'll just go with your slide and then see if it's still unclear. Probably I'll ask you again.
Definitely.
So,
So, yes, please.
just one question regarding this Agile. So, this DevOps in Agile, does it come in picture directly when we are deploying it on production, directly on live environment? Because I think in middle, like QA environment, trunk stage, at that time, continuous CI takes place, right? Or that also is done by DevOps.
I think you might have to repeat your question. Your voice is a bit lagging.
So, in case of Agile, hello.
Yes, I can hear you. Please go ahead.
Yeah. So in case of Agile, this DevOps it basically comes into when they are doing the final push on production environment, something like that.
Correct. So, see, final approach on production environment, yes. DevOps is nothing but you are enabling a smooth flow of an application from one environment to other environment and eventually ending up to production. Okay, let's say you have, if you're working on Java, you have ABC repository, and then from that ABC repository, you take the code and build it into abc.var file and deploy it onto QA. If the testing goes well, you deploy it onto further stage environments. If there also validation goes well, you deploy it onto pre-prod and then eventually end up on production. How this is going to happen? With the help of DevOps, by defining a single pipeline. Okay, so now I'll give you one more point in DevOps which might help thinking a bit easier. So, what exactly, why do you need DevOps? Okay, you say that, okay, smooth flow of an application from build stage to deployment stage to production environment. You see all that, but why do we need DevOps? What is the purpose of it? See, basically, what I need is when I'm doing when I'm running my business, I don't want any downtime. That is my concern from a customer point of view. I don't want any downtime. See, for example, I have some slides to cover, but apart from that, I want to give you an example. Everybody uses Amazon, right? That's a very good example to understand. Everybody buys stuff on Amazon, and you see every 2 hours or 3 hours there are new items added, there are new offers running in. So basically, some new additional feature is being added to actual Amazon platform. Yes, sir? Yes or no?
Yeah.
So you see, when a new feature is being added, typically and classically, what we see is when a new feature is being added to an application, there should be a downtime. Application needs to be brought down, new code has to be kept there, and then restart the Tomcat or restart whatever the application server. This is how ideally things worked. But now, if you notice, Amazon is going on adding a lot of stuff to their website or mobile application or whatever their application basically, and there is no downtime. They are not bringing down their application. How this is happening? It means that there are two concepts here. One is microservices and the other is DevOps. What is microservices and what is DevOps? DevOps again is implementing microservices. First, I'll tell you what is microservices. Microservices is nothing but you are dividing your requirement, your deployment into chunks of little services. That's it. In a very clean and soft understanding, microservice is nothing but you are dividing your entire requirement or entire delivery into small parts. Okay, considering the Amazon scenario, and let's say there is a festival going on and festival sale is going on. What you'll do, you will deploy one microservice for an offers on bags, on trousers or whatever. And that when that goes well, you deploy little other microservice. And now how you are deploying that microservice? With the help of DevOps. And how DevOps is enabling no downtime? With the help of pipelines. How pipeline is coming into picture? With the help of Agile methodology. So this is how the hierarchy is going like. Make sense, sir?
Yeah. Yeah. Clear.
Cool. So no, my slide says basically it asks like why do we need DevOps? So what I have written is easy way of handling life cycle of an application. As I said right now, uh, life cycle of an application starts from the repository. It is very raw and then goes into development environment and then QA, then stage, and then production. This is how the life cycle of the application from environment to environment traverse. So you are enabling each team to have the code ready in their environment for their respective activity. So this team, this DevOps concept, this DevOps practicing is actually responsible for enabling the team to access their code in their environments by helping them deploy the code efficiently and effectively in their environments. Now, automate the whole process to keep build and deploy consistent. So, as I said, we have something called pipelines. In pipelines, we have jobs. Okay, everything I am telling you theoretically and functionally, but when you see by your eyes, when you practice how the build is happening, you'll feel it very nice. Okay, this is how the code is being brought in. Okay, this is how the package or artifact is built. Okay, this is how we are going to deploy. So if you have any doubts regarding how you're going to build it, how you're going to deploy, then I want to keep that curiosity to my next slides, and then I'll tell you how we can do that. Okay. Now, the last point says trigger smaller deploys more often. Just now we covered an example of Amazon. Like I want to go ahead with small deployments, but then I don't want any downtime as well. So previously, what used to happen is when there is a release, okay, let us understand the previous challenge and then we'll get to know the importance of DevOps. Previously, how like when I'm saying previously, it's more or less like 10 years before. What how people used to do is, okay, they define some deadline, some month basically. Okay, in this month I'm going to hit the production, so my code will be there in production. So that release, of course it will have downtime, so everybody is so hyped up for that release, and they bring in all the requirements together, and they say, okay, this is what we got as an opportunity. We need to put in all the requirements, all the functionalities, everything to be tested, and then when the release is happening, we can combine everything in a single package and deploy it to whatever environment or QA environment basically. So when they get to know there is a release which happens very rarely in a year, so they will put all their requirements, all their functionalities. Okay, then they will have to wait for the next change set time or next release time basically. So here the main challenge what is happening is I cannot go ahead with my small requirement. Let's say I want to change the color of my application. So the customer will come up, okay, I don't want this color of my UI, I want a different UI. Then you cannot deploy UI separately. You have to bundle that with the API code, you have to bundle that with your business logic code, and then build it together at the time of release and then deploy it. Now Agile says if you have a UI, you will have a different sprint. If you have a code business logic, you will have a different sprint. Okay, so simultaneously UI team can you work on UI, the coding team can work on the API buildings, and then when they both are done, they both have their separate pipelines. If everything is well, then hit it, hit the pipeline. The code will be generated, uh, package is ready, it is deployed to QA testing happened, production is ready. So in the matter of 1 week, you just change the color of your application. So who is responsible for that? Who is helping them do this? DevOps is coming to the picture. So which is why at the beginning of my session, I told that DevOps is more asking people to be confident and strong on the concepts rather than the tools and the technologies. Okay, there are many tools. See, my understanding of the tools is when I started, there was something else, and now when I'm working, it is completely else. So every time, tool is nothing but a UI and click based thing. Okay, you cannot rely on a tool will keep on changing, but if you are strong and grounded on the concepts of DevOps, how functionally things are working, how a package is moving from one environment to the other, and how what exactly is the requirement of the project, then you can put that in a tool, you can put that on ground technically and work on it. So no matter what tool you are using, learning a tool will take more or less 1 week. But learning concept is exactly what DevOps demands. Make sense, sir? So now here there are a couple of points which I have listed out for why we need DevOps. It provides you speed in the sense moving of package. It provides you rapid delivery. Okay, and rapid delivery is nothing but your entire CI/CD. For you guys who are very new to DevOps, what is CI and what is CD? It is continuous integration and continuous deployment. We also have a concept called continuous delivery. I don't want to touch any of it today because I don't want you guys to confuse yourselves and then understand basically very scrambled concept of DevOps. Let's understand, let's know, let's read the concepts and terminologies first, and then we'll dive deeper and deeper into each thing. And I'm here to answer each of your questions. Okay. And then we have reliability, we have scaling. So what is scaling, sir? Now, this is a very interesting concept. Whatever I have said about DevOps till now is actually 10% of what we are doing. Because I don't want to confuse you guys, I have given you an overview of functional knowledge. Yes, it is the backbone of whatever we discuss, but have I covered all the features which DevOps is giving? Certainly no. So, out of which I missed out to say about scaling. We will discuss slowly about each feature, and then you will say, okay, wow, this is amazing that DevOps is able to do all this. Now, what is scaling, sir? Sir, have you ever come across a concept called load balancing, right? What is a load balancer? Load balancer, you guys are with me, right? I'm not going any faster or something, right?
We are good.
Yep. So even though if I'm going faster or anything is bouncing off, please stop me and ask a question. I'm all happy to answer them. So I was saying about the load balancer. What is a load balancer? In your minds, please imagine a line, okay, a line, and that is called as load balancer for us. Below that line, draw four squares, okay, in a horizontal line. Again, same line, horizontal line. Draw a four squares. I don't want to draw and show you. I want you guys to imagine. So there is a horizontal line. Below that, there are four boxes horizontally kept beside each other. And then below that, there is a computer. Okay. Now, computer is nothing but your user, end user. Draw a line from your computer, straight line to one box, second box, third box, fourth box. So from your computer, the request is going to any of these four boxes, right? Now, what is happening is first box is your dev environment, second box is your QA environment, third box is your stage environment, fourth box is your production environment. Now, end user cannot access dev, end user cannot access QA, end user cannot access stage, end user can only access production box, correct? Which is available to people, but for testing purpose, I'm saying. Now, what happens is while talking about dev, okay, the end user is able to access dev server perfectly, sir. Great. And now end user is also able to access the QA data perfectly. In real time scenario, we do not let people access dev QA and stage, but just for understanding, again, I'm saying this. Now, when it comes to production, the end user is trying to access production, but there is only one server and the server got crashed. Now, what is the scene, sir? Entire application is down. Even though there is no problem with the application, the infrastructure was responsible for keeping down the application. Make sense? You guys are understanding? Now, what is the main challenge? There was only one server, sir. There was no backup server for this production. Oh, okay, fine. What I'll do is I'll add one more production server. One more production server. So now the request will go either to production one or production two, but the names will be different, right? How to keep names similar? Then bring that horizontal line which you drew on the first part, bring that and draw between your end user and four boxes in between that. Now what happens is you added couple of more servers to the production, okay? Then your system, your end user is accessing the load balancer now. It is not accessing the computer. I know this is very hard and difficult to imagine, but I just want to give you a concept of why we need a load balancer. Okay. Now, what I have done is I have scaled up my production server from one to two. Okay. I've scaled up from one box to two boxes for production. Now, I cannot let my end user access both boxes at the same time, right? They cannot type two URLs in a single browser. So what I can do is I can draw a load balancer. I can give you the URL of the load balancer, www.amazon.com. At the backend, what is happening when Amazon.com is being accessed, the request is going to either of the two servers. Okay. I am not accessing the physical server directly. I am accessing the load balancer directly. And internally, that load balancer is pointing to any of the two servers. So if any of these two servers goes down, it means that the other server is ready to serve you the request, serve you the traffic. Then there is no downtime. That is what I mean to say. Okay. So now I have said why DevOps, it helps you to scale. Scaling in the sense adding new infrastructure, yes. Adding number of replicas, yes. Adding number of backend target servers, yes. So in DevOps, you can define n number of servers, how many you want if you're working on cloud. Makes sense?
Yeah.
All right. So I know that it's a bit tricky, but don't worry, whatever I have said, again, I'm going to cover everything in detail in the coming sessions. Okay. Just ask me if you have any doubts. I can try to convince you with some reliable understanding, but if you want to deep dive, yes, I will be covering everything in detail in the coming sessions. Now, it also gives you security. Now, this is something really important that you guys to know. We have a thing called DevOps, right? In this market, recently there is a new concept called DevSecOps coming into the picture. You know what is DevSecOps? Is nothing but development, security, and operations combined together to make an abbreviation of DevSecOps. Now, what is sec pointing to? It is pointing to all the security. So every application needs to have some security, right? And they define some policies. So in DevOps, in a pipeline, we integrate those security scans. Okay, we have a lot of tools in DevOps that helps you do that. So we just integrate those tools and those methodologies. So you have to have a little understanding on how security can be covered on a particular application, and then how you can integrate that into my existing pipeline, and how an application will be able to pass through all the security scans. And once it is passed, you can say, okay, fine, this application has gone through my security scans, and now it is all good to be deployed to production. So this is how DevOps is coming to the picture and helping your application to perform the security scans as well. Any questions, sir?
Yes, I do have. For the
Please.
when you say that DevOps and DevSecOps, why are they implicitly calling it out? Uh, Sorry, explicitly calling it out sec, because by default DevOps it should comprise of everything, right?
Correct. So basically, initially when people started with DevOps, right, they have this thing called code coverage, quality of the code. So when the developers check in the code and it's all good, so as a DevOps person, my responsibility is to let them know whatever the piece of code you have written, it is this much of in a good shape and this much is in a bad shape. So basically entire report of the code coverage. Now talking about the security, we used to do that manually. Integrating that in a pipeline or in a process or in a practice has something got exciting in the existing market. Okay, so how it has got exciting, sir? Lot of companies came up with their own tools. Have you heard about something called Veracode scans? Have you heard about something called 45 HP 45? So they have developed an explicit what you call a functionality to be integrated in a pipeline. So earlier these things were not be because they are third party, they could not be integrated in the pipelines. Now if you talk about Azure DevOps, they have given a task to do whatever you want to do on Veracode. If you talk about Jenkins, they have their APIs connecting to HP45 or Veracode and do whatever scans you want to perform. So basically, a company, what they do is, because Veracode, if you talk about Veracode, what is Veracode for others to know? It is an application security performing a tool. It is a third party tool. So as a DevOps person, do you need to have knowledge on it? Yes, bits and pieces, definitely. So as a if I'm a project manager and I want to perform this security scan and make sure that my entire application is good with the security point of view, what I'll do, I'll buy a subscription of Veracode. Okay, and then I'll tell the DevOps team to write something in your Jenkins or whatever the tool they are using, and then connect it to the Vera code. And in the Vera code, there will be some policies defined from the organization. If you're working on XYZ company gives you some policy at the time of buying subscription. Okay, our application should be following these policies. So your Jenkins or your build tool, whatever, should be connecting with Vera code, pushing the files to Vera code, and Vera code will try to perform some blah 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 logic and tell, okay, out of these many policies passed and these many policies failed. Coming to your question, why this, we are coining it a new term called DevSecOps, because all these things were never imagined or never seen in the recent times of DevOps. Yes, security was part of DevOps, but it was not fully integrated because this third party could were not able to generate some external APIs to have a connectivity between the existing DevOps tools and their third party tools. So everything you had to do it manually and then come back to pipeline. So now that is why we call it as orchestration. I told in the beginning also, this orchestration is more likely same as pipeline, but in a defined and refined way. You say on a single click, code coverage is also happening. How code coverage is happening? On a third party tool, the code is being tested and the report is being generated. Application security is also happening. How the code is being ran through all the policies and the report is being generated. Everything as part of your DevOps model or DevOps agile principles, everything you are practicing that and executing in a single pipeline over a one click. So this one click scenario on a single go is called as orchestration basically. Okay, so as currently in the market we have a lot of application security tools. I know you will find a lot of other material for DevSecOps, but the main theme is all the tools in the market have agreed to have good handshake with existing DevOps tools. See, DevOps tool is also a third party. Application security tool is also a third party. Tool is obviously a third party tool. So to have a connectivity between these two, they have to come to a single norm, single belt, and that belt is the process of DevOps. Make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, so what is DevOps? The Amazon says basically it's a combination of culture, practices, and tools. Exactly what we covered just now. Culture is nothing but your project lifestyle, how you are delivering the project. You have by following the Agile methodology. Practices, you are doing CI, CD, CT, continuous testing. So I have not spoken about continuous testing yet, because most of you are from the testing point of uh, the stream. So uh, yeah, so most of your guys are hailing from that background. So what exactly is continuous testing? So let's say you have written some test cases. Now people are more likely moving to writing some automated test cases, right? I don't have much knowledge on the testing coding part, but yes, I have integrated a lot of different stream of technologies into DevOps. If you talk about Selenium based project, if you talk about protractor based project, or currently Tosca is also something which people are integrating with pipeline. So what basically is continuous testing? So again, people are moving to writing some automated test cases. And what is the meaning of automated test cases? So, you are writing some piece of code and letting that code tell, okay, these are my bundle of test cases, and in a single go, you have to run all of these test cases. Okay, so let's say I talk about some sanity testings. Okay, just a second. Yeah. So I'm talking about some sanity test cases. So what is sanity testing basically? When a code is deployed to production, ensuring that it's all good. the environment, the application, and everything is as intact as it was before the deployment. Doing some sanity check. So sanity check is the least amount of testing that you need as part of health checking of application and the server. So every time you have to do it manually, going to the server, checking whether the RAM usage, or whether talk about the application, whether the URLs are being accessible or not, whatever. So the size of the code is same or not, etc., right? So what for that, you write an automated script or automated code in any language, whatever you want. So again, I have an automated piece of code with me. The deployment happened, but after the deployment happened from the pipeline, do I need to manually go and trigger that Selenium based project or Tosca based project or whatever? No, right? My intention is to combine that also in the pipeline. So combining that automation in the pipeline gives you a concept of continuous testing. Okay. So whenever the code is deployed onto QA, then if you happen to perform some smoke test, or if you happen to perform some regression test there, in that scenario, all the regression test suits will be clubbed or combined as part of pipeline, and immediately after the QA is done, that particular piece of automated test case will run and give you the report. This is called as continuous testing. We will be discussing that as well in part as part of our code. I have a sample application with me. So as I mentioned in the course, I'm going to give more knowledge on the Azure DevOps part. I'll discuss that in some time. Why exactly do we uh, need Azure DevOps as part of this curriculum? Previously in my batches, I used to have uh, other tools as well, but now I'm rigorously wanting Azure DevOps also to come into the picture. The reason and all I'll explain in some time. So this is how DevOps is coming to the market. So quickly we'll cover up certain slides as we are already short of some time. All right. So DevOps ecosystem, what exactly is having? As we already discussed this, it has a repository. It has continuous integration, infrastructure automation. Yes, we can automate infrastructure, as I just told about the concept of scaling. So you just go through all this. Okay, don't try to put a lot of mind thinking onto this, because these are terminologies. Okay, these terminologies will be explained, rather practiced in our coming sessions. Okay, so deployment automation and orchestration, this also we covered. Container concepts and cloud. Container concepts and cloud, I'll be discussing that in the middle of my session, because this is not something that I can explain in 15 or 20 minutes. It will take entirely one day session to explain you how containerization is there and all. So Docker is something that is a part of our agenda for the course, and I'll be covering everything which you need for Docker. So there are a couple of points which I want to discuss before I move to next slides. Okay. So most of you guys are coming from testing part, as you said, and a lot of you guys are also coming from non-IT background, as I know. So majority of the people from testing backgrounds, they say we don't know any coding, and how can you say that I am good fit for DevOps and etc. Sir, in that sense, it is not necessary for you to have a good knowledge on coding. It is not necessary for anybody to know coding. So there is a difference between coding and scripting, right? In scripting, we will be having a lot of module based scenarios. So what you need as part of DevOps automation is you need to have bits and pieces knowledge on the scripting part. If you're working on Windows based applications, .NET or something, you need to have little understanding of PowerShell. If you're working on Linux based things, you need to have a little understanding of shell scripting. Sir, I don't have any knowledge on the scripting part, so don't worry. I have dedicated couple of sessions for scripting. I'll be covering everything from the basics, from zero to something that I'll give you an activity for you guys to perform an automation. You'll be able to do that, and it is very easy. Trust me, scripting is something that can be learned very quickly and effectively, because scripting is something that it gives you immediate outputs. You need not understand some pack. Let's say if you talk about Python, or if you talk about Java or .NET or Selenium, you need to have an prior understanding of the packages that are available in the SDK, and etc etc. But in the PowerShell or in shell scripting, you just have to learn about few commands and then learn how to use those commands. So based on the requirements, you will be able to use those commands. And yes, to perform the logics, you will have if else loop, for loop, etc etc. That is something that is completely very real time based scenario. So let's say my requirement is, if the room is empty, I have to go in. So this is my requirement. How can I write that in a shell script or PowerShell? uh, it will be like, if room empty, then go in, else come out. Finish, sir. This is how if else or for loop or switch case, these things will come into the picture. So considering the real time scenario only, you will have to follow some syntaxes and then do the scripting. As I said, I'm going to cover from zero to a point where you can do the automations by yourself. Now,
Quick question here.
yes,
Yeah,
yes, please.
my name is Neer. Yeah. So, I mean, as you said, I mean, we don't need any like coding background or something.
Hmm.
So, where is this like? I mean, suppose I mean some infrastructure we need to automate the infrastructure or something. So, where are we standing like Terraform and Ansible or Chef or Puppet here actually?
Okay,
So we are
so
not using those things, or we are not. I mean, not we means like I mean, as a DevOps, I mean, we are not going to touch that one, or I mean, is a part of it because most of the companies, I mean, they're everybody are using, all the clients are using. I mean, at least one of them in our Chef or Ansible. Nowadays, is they are using Ansible actually. What I have seen.
mhm,
So,
correct.
I mean, yeah, please explain, please.
Sure. So if you talk about Ansible or Chef or Puppet, right? So in Puppet you have manifest file. In Chef you have cookbooks. In Ansible you have playbooks. So same concept, different names. So what exactly you are doing there in the playbook? It's nothing but a YAML file. Okay, YAML file is more or less like JSON for a niche understanding. So in YAML you will be defining what you need and how you need it. Okay, but you will not be defining any methodology, basically a business logic. You will not be able to define that. For defining that methodology, see, let me cover it this way. uh, from the infrastructure point of view, you need 2 points. One is, I need Java version this much, and servers this much, this many servers. So these two configurations I'll define in the playbook if I'm using Ansible. So what I'll do, I'll write a playbook and then define Java this version, servers these many. Okay, and then this is it. In the YAML, I'm going to just define the configurations as how I do it in XML, JSON, or any other configuration file. So now I am going to write a PowerShell script, oh, sorry, shell scripting if I'm working on Linux, to facilitate that YAML for my further requirements. But from the infrastructure point of view, I need not have any scripting knowledge mandatory to perform this firing up of or spinning off the entire infrastructure. If you talk about Azure, there is something called ARM file by which you spin up the entire infrastructure. What is ARM? Azure Resource Manager. So in this ARM template, what is ARM template? It is entirely a JSON file. Is entirely a JSON file. You need to understand how you pass a parameter from one JSON to the other, and then you need to understand how you pass a value from one key to the other. That's it. You need not have any scripting knowledge. And then once your ARM template is ready, go to the portal and just upload it. Your infrastructure is ready, sir. And if you want to do that from outside, write a PowerShell script and run that particular ARM file. Similarly, write a shell script and run that playbook. You need not have any business logic in the uh, infrastructure spinning a tool, whatever you said right now. Yes, if you talk about custom logics or something, if you talk about Puppet, there is a different language altogether based on the Puppet scenario. Okay, and that is class IO. It is also more or less like scripting only. You need not have any coding language. That's what I mean to say. I have interviewed people in DevOps coming from mechanical background, coming from metallurgy background, and they are doing well and good in DevOps stream. So that is what my uh, kind suggestion is. Put that thought away that you need not have any coding. Yes, if you're coming from testing background, you need to have a bits and pieces of understanding on the on writing some automated test suites, automated test cases from in any of the framework. That is again depending on your interest if you want to move to automated testing. Make sense, sir?
Yeah, got it. Thank you.
Welcome. So moving on to the next slide. So this is how entirely which we discussed. So there are two things now in the market. One is normal CI/CD and the other is DevOps assemblies. Now, what is something new, sir? This is DevOps assemblies. What is this new thing? DevOps assemblies is nothing but what you see on the second diagram. We have a source control, we have a CI, we have artifact repositories, we have testing tools, we have infrastructure provisioning configuration management tools, we have notification, and then yeah, we have this deployment targets and everything. The combination of all these third party, we have called it as DevOps assemblies. Okay, now quickly, very quickly, I'll give you an idea of what is difference between the normal CI/CD and the DevOps assemblies. We'll not be using DevOps assemblies word. We'll be referring to CI/CD only, but the concept has evolved from the traditional approach to a new approach. Now, previously, what we used to do, we used to build it, we used to test the code, and we used to and push it in the sense deploy it to the production environment, and then notify is nothing but monitoring of the application in the production environment. Okay, whether how the application is doing okay or not. You guys are coming from performance testing, you need AppDynamics or Dynatrace to track the health of a particular application running on a server. Previously, we used to follow this. Now we have refined this process into a much evolved phase. Now what we are doing, the code is there in source control. Please see the diagram here. The code is there in source control. I am doing some CI with the help of some tools, third-party tools. Let's not name them. As I said, we need to be strong on the concepts. We have CI, and once the CI is done, it is developing some package. Now, from that time, I'm saying package, but in DevOps world, we call it as an artifact, ARTIFACT, artifact. Artifact is the end product of a build process, build pipeline. Okay, so slowly, I'll be integrating or injecting some terminology in the DevOps. I request you guys to keep a note of it and track. So artifact is something that is generated from the build, from the CI pipeline. So from that artifact, I need to store all these artifacts into a place. Okay, why do we need to store this? This is going to be an interview question. So why do we need to store have an artifact repository? Let's say release one happened. Release one is all good in the production. Release two also happened. It's all good in the production. Release three also happened. It's all good in the production. But in sorry, release three was good in dev, was good in QA, was good in stage, but in the production it encountered a bug for some issue. You do not know. You need to roll back the code, right? Production is itself down. What you can do, if you do not have release number one artifact or release number two artifact, how can you roll back? So in order to roll back two previous artifacts, you need to have a repository, right, where you can store all the previous build certified build artifactories. You cannot store every build artifactory, of course. You have to store all the QA certified artifacts. So that place is called as artifactory or artifact repository, where we store all the certified artifacts, certified packages, from where our deployment job or release job will pick and deploy. Make sense? So we have testing tools as well. We have Selenium, Tosca, etc., etc. These can be clubbed in the pipeline, as I just mentioned. We have infrastructure provisioning, configuration management tool. We have Ansible, Chef, Puppet. There are a lot of other tools available, as Mir just pointed out. And notification. Again, there are third-party tools available for monitoring purpose. Okay, let's say some URL is there, http://amazon.com. This URL is there, and it is my application, my entire product, and I'm responsible for handling the DevOps. How would I know whether this HTTP is down or not? I cannot wait till the end user creates a ticket and telling, hey, I have this website not being accessed in my mobile, please fix it. I cannot just wait until that, right? DevOps is nothing but everything happening on a pinch of salt, quickly. So if at all that URL is down, I need to have a monitoring setup for myself itself, right? So whenever the URL is down, do something and bring it up. Or if something is out of bound, immediately inform me so that I can look in. So those tools, those are called monitoring tools. Monitoring tools also come into the picture, having the entire concept of your application hosted, whether the health is good, bad, or fantastic in state. They will help you do that. And then deployment target. Again, this you see a lot of technology symbols, logos there. We'll be covering everything in detail. Do not get confused. I have taken a lot of interviews, so I have understanding of what people are really looking for, and I can give you the best of my knowledge and my understanding so that you are equipped with uh, the basics and the strong fundamentals of DevOps. Now we have quickly come up to the last part of the section. Yeah, what exactly engineering skills do you need? These are the ones you have to have a good understanding on the key concepts. You need to have some basics of the OS that you're working, and then some tools. Obviously, without tools, you cannot facilitate your DevOps knowledge into real-time practice. Some scripting knowledge and some soft skills. Soft skills, what do you need soft skills? I'll tell you in tomorrow or day after tomorrow session how exactly we are going to have soft skills in the branching point of view, or how you can be a contributor in consulting project, whether this is a good approach or not. The last slide explains about the tools that we are using, the version control, the build tool, everything you can see on my screen and read. It's more or less a good understanding from the reading point itself. Oh yeah, so this is how it is. Am I missing something? You can come over. I'll be sharing this deck with everybody post this session. So am I missing something that you can ask me?
Is there any way, I mean, are you, trying to, are you going to cover Kubernetes or something?
That you have to check with Anita or Kumar, because I have given them the curriculum as well, containerization. So yes, I take batches on Docker and Kubernetes as well. So let us see if we can accommodate that in the current section. Yes, if required, I'm ready to help you with everything you need on Kubernetes.
So, as I said, it's going for containerization, Docker or, Kubernetes. So
Mhm.
DevOps is totally different compared to, job prospect. Talking about the job, looking for a job, suppose. So DevOps is
Mhm.
different, and Docker and Kubernetes is different, correct?
No, it's not different. Containerization is something that is cherry on the cake of DevOps. you can say. It's part of DevOps.
Correct.
Containerization is something that again helps you to build an image, building something that DevOps gives you a concept of. So if you talk about Docker, you have something called Docker file. You write some set of commands and then run that command to generate the image from that Docker file. So that command
Yeah.
is nothing but performing the same as Maven clean install or ms build generate the file. It's more or less like the build tool only in our common scenario terminology. But yes, Docker containerization is something that uh, is part of DevOps. You cannot isolate containerization out of it. But as I just said, scaling part and all, Kubernetes helps you to provide number of replicas in the scaling point. If I have to spin my production server from 5 to 10 servers, if my traffic is increasing, I can do that on the Kubernetes part. So this concept is being given by the DevOps, and you can integrate that Kubernetes part in your DevOps pipeline only. The pipeline, you define the number of replicas, and at the backend, that kubectl command will be executed, and it will spin up the scale up rather the number of replicas for your environment.
So, I mean, as you said, like, I mean, it's a part of it. I mean, like Docker and I got it. I mean, Docker and Kubernetes. But thing is, like, I mean, nowadays, I mean, if you see, I mean, like Kubernetes administrator and Kubernetes developer, I mean, it's totally different job here actually. So I'm just trying to, I mean, like understand, I mean, why they move out. Suppose it's a part of DevOps. So why did they move up to, I mean, like Kubernetes developer or Kubernetes administrator?
Okay, so as I said in the middle of session, containerization is not something that I can cover quickly, but no worries, I'll try my best. So please be patient. So see, what is containerization basically? Containerization came into the picture in order for us to get rid of the VMs. I don't want VMs. In the current scenario, how it is happening, I have one dev server, two QA server, three prod and four, three stage and four prod, and these servers are hosted in some data center, and that data center is residing in US, UK, Australia, whatever. So if that data center goes down, I have a problem of accessing these servers, etc., etc. Infrastructure concerns. So containerization comes into the picture to overcome this challenge. How?
Hmm.
By telling them, okay, I am going to build the artifact, but artifact is not going to be something that in a .zip, .var or .dll format. I'm going to build an image. This image can only be accessed by a restricted platform. Okay, I'm not
Correct.
giving you any terminologies, but I'm trying to cover most of the functional scenario of how containerization is hitting the market. A containerization, let's say if we're talking about Docker, I'm building an image, and this image will only be executed on a certain platform. It needs something onto which only I can execute this image. Now, what
Right.
is this image is having? This image is having again the same build commands that you used to give in the Jenkins job or whatever, and then you're running the command and producing the image. Now after producing the image, this is where we come the concept of containerization. You understand this image is something that gets deployed into a container. Container is what, in our understanding, container is a lightweight VM. We cannot call it as a VM, but
Yeah.
in our understanding it's a very lightweight VM with all your required binaries, libraries, kernel, whatever. It is just a lightweight thing, and this image needs to be deployed onto the container. Okay, now
Okay.
container, there are again different tools providing a lot of this thing facilities. Docker itself provides something called Docker Swarm, which gives you
Yeah.
container facility. If you don't want Docker, you can go to Kubernetes. Kubernetes also gives containerization part. So I am using Docker to build the image. Image is ready with me, and I am dumping that image in either Docker Swarm or Kubernetes. Now, let's talk about Kubernetes for a couple of minutes. Kubernetes is what? Kubernetes is helping you to create some virtual servers and spin them to whatever quantity you want. Now, let us understand the hierarchy. First, Kubernetes have to be installed on master slave concept of Linux servers. You have two Linux servers, you have installed Kubernetes, master slave. In the master, you created a cluster. Okay, one cluster is
Right.
created. Cluster is nothing but a big house. In that
Mm-hmm.
cluster, you created number of pods, PODs, pods.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, pods are nothing but small rooms. And in that pod, you need to deploy your image. Your image is nothing but the furniture, the TV, the fan, the light, everything. Okay,
Yeah.
so you need to have a pod, a container where you can deploy the image. So pod gives you all these features. Now, how I'm going to tell what configurations do I need for a pod? So Kubernetes provides different YAML files for
Mm-hmm.
facilitating these features. It provides you
Right.
service.yaml file, deploy.yaml file, ingress.yaml file. Deploy.yaml
Right.
file is nothing but your deployment details. Service.yaml file tells you the application specific configuration files of that image. Ingress.yaml file gives you the load balancing DNS details, networking details of that particular image, of that particular pod basically. Make sense? So
Right.
here
Yeah.
I'm going to deploy this image onto a pod. And certainly I see that I need one more pod. I'll just quickly go to service.yaml file, change the value from 1 to 2, and then spin up the pod again, cluster again, sorry. Now the pods will be 2.
Okay.
Now, what is the advantage of it? Coming back to your question, what is the advantage of it? Why do we need containerization? Now, I started with an example saying that I have one dev server, Q2A, two QA, and then three stage and four productions. I have these many servers. Now, if you talk about Kubernetes, have I talked about any server? Have I talked about any
Mm-hmm.
data center? No, I just spoke about two
No.
Linux servers. Now everything is moving to some virtualization. Although you are
Yeah.
not into cloud, you are moving to containerization.
Good to know. Yeah. Got it.
Understood? I
So,
tried my best to
yeah,
explain you,
understand.
but I understand there can be some open questions.
Yeah, thing is like, I mean, that's what I was thinking. I mean, Dockers and Kubernetes, are you going to cover or not? If, because I don't want to go into the detail now. I mean, definitely, I mean, in the session, you can go for it. But thing is, I just want to know, like, you're covering or not.
Yeah, I will be covering Docker only. Kubernetes, I think there should be an advanced course. As part of that, I'll be covering. So basically, the agenda, what they have defined is listed on their website. You can go through that. And I am also planning to, let's see how things go. Like we have a defined timeline for this course. And I'm also planning for some DevOps 2.0 advanced course wherein I'll be covering everything detailed of Azure cloud details, everything, so that it will be very short-term based course. And once you join that course, you should be fit and fine and ready to onboard onto any Azure DevOps project. The Azure DevOps is something and Azure Portal is something else. So I'll be covering that Azure Portal in my 2.0. That hasn't been planned yet. I have to discuss with the team now. Kubernetes also I have to put that there, but for now in this curriculum what these solutions have uh, come to a discussion, that is finalized and it is written on the website. Yes, I can answer your questions, but I cannot go much deeper because we have other audiences as well that will be serving their times too. So whatever the curriculum is listed, I'll be covering that first. And then yes, verily I'll be discussing about cloud in detail, Kubernetes in detail, in the next coming sessions. But yes, in the current session, I'll be covering everything you need about Docker. So after like those two classes of Docker, two or three classes rather, you can say you are perfectly amazing on the Docker containers. That I can guarantee. I can share you all the documents as well, materials as well. You can you can just go ahead and tell your manager why cannot you go to containerization. And this is how you do it.
Yeah. So I mean,
So
how many days is gonna be
that's it.
like? What is the duration for this one?
I have planned it for 20 days. That can
So you
exceed
plan for 20 days.
based on the, yeah. So for example, we planned this session for 1 hour, but it's exceeding a lot more than that. So like that, uh, things can go ahead. It's not compulsion that only 20 days or so. We can go beyond that. It's my
Okay, sure.
intention
So
of taking this course is to address all your questions, all your uh, doubts, without which I don't want to
okay,
proceed. I don't want to be a talking tutor and then go ahead and read all the slides and all. I want to be more practical stuff. Yeah, you were saying
sure.
something.
So I mean, what about the time? Time is gonna be like? I mean, it's gonna be the same time, or I mean, have you guys decided about this one?
Probably, yes. The same time, that timing and all you have to discuss with Anita or Kumar.
So it's gonna be 1 hour session, or I mean, 2 hour session.
It will be 1 hour session.
Okay.
Guys, this is Kumar here. The
Thank-
timings is going to be same unless people, the participants want it to be different. But Mudassir sir and I am comfortable with these timings. I mean, if the audiences wanted it to be something else, and all of them are in sync with the new time, we can change it as well. But you see, Mudassir sir is a working professional, so he has his own commitments. So this would be a comfortable time in terms of the availability of the trainer. That's what I think so. But again, we can discuss, and then somebody wanted it to be something else, so we are open.
Okay.
I have a question, Hashim. So how much percentage would be the practical on this course?
I cannot give you an exact percentage, but yes, definitely more than 50.
Okay, so I mean, like, do we touch
As I said,
all
I have a
the
lot of assignments for you. Hmm.
do we touch all the codes, like you discussed a lot of tables, right? Like source code and repository, all this part. Do we
Yes,
touch
yes,
base
yes,
in every?
absolutely.
So, but when you say
Everything
Azure
from the
DevOps, that
scratch.
is a commercial. That's a commercial, right? So how do we get access to that?
No, you have a free licensing provided by Azure DevOps. You can
Oh,
make use of free licensing.
okay, okay.
Otherwise, we have a training subscription. We can use that.
So, I mean, one more thing. I mean, like, why? I mean, this is me again. I mean, instead of most of the thing, I mean, like in the market here, I mean, US. I'm in US right now, so it's gonna most of the thing. I mean, people clients are using AWS DevOps actually. I mean, instead of Azure, I'm talking about. I mean, Amazon, I can say. So, why are we focusing on this Azure? I mean,
Yes, good question. So, as I said, I have had an opportunity to serve this technology for quite a few time in the market, and people, a lot of it, projects are incorporating AWS or Azure. But by my understanding, since the past 7 to 8 months, people are slowly moving to Azure DevOps, and majority of the technologies they're using are more likely UI based or .NET based.
yeah.
And if people are looking for job change, Azure DevOps is something that can bring you a very good opportunity. And Azure portal is something that is beating everything, and every week they are providing a lot of new feature in their cloud portal. So I have done a lot of analysis on this, and yes, if you see, AWS is something that you can learn on your own as well as some basics. You can go some tutorial and something, but Azure portal is something very new to the market. People have no understanding of how to host an application on the portal, and how to spin up the infrastructure as code or something. So understanding that gap, I thought to cover this. Also, as I mentioned, it's a very good opportunity oriented technology. So it's actually something that people are migrating to slowly, because see, at the end of the day, it's all UI based, efficient, and it's very easy to onboard. I see a lot of openings on Azure DevOps. So which is why this is my first batch that I want to start this Azure DevOps with.
Okay, got it.
Uh, Hi, this is Abhishek here. So I have a question. In Azure DevOps, yes, we have a different pipelines. So are we going to learn those kind of pipelines in Azure DevOps? Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And you will be covering the same in Jenkins as well, right?
Correct. So you have the course curriculum with you. You can just go ahead and walk through everything, and we'll be covering what has been defined there. And you will be doing that on your local system. I'll be doing it here on my local system. It's not like you have to be a monitor and watching me doing all the activities. You face any challenge, knock my door. I'll be there to assist you.
Okay, thanks. And what would be the frequency of these classes? Monday to Friday? 5 days in a week or 4 days?
I think that you have to check with Kumar or Renita.
You can take a call on it. So if you're comfortable 5 days, we can do 5 days. It's your call, Ashi.
Okay.
And
And
out of
we
that
will get the
5 days,
recordings. We will get the recording sessions as well for this all the classes.
yes, Abhishek. So every session gets recorded, and then we get the recorded videos by the end of the day. Okay.
Mhm.
So you can refer to it, and it's a lifetime access. So we can do
I'm
four
fine
days a
with
week.
4. Yeah, 4 days
Yeah.
would be fine because we need sometimes to do the hands-on as well. So for 3 days we can do hands-on and we can catch up for the backlogs and all.
That's what I think as well. 4 days will be perfect. So if Hashim sir is comfortable, we can go with 4 days. Ideally, if Tuesday through Friday. Why Tuesday means for US it will be Monday morning. So there is Mir in the class as well, so it's from US. So if there are US audiences, I mean candidates got registered, then we go from Tuesday through Friday.
Hashim,
All right,
sorry, I
sir.
have
So
one
we
more
can
question.
wind up. Yeah.
Sorry, I have one
Yes,
last
please.
question. So does this, I mean, do we also cover the infrastructure as a code as part of this DevOps course?
Yes, I will give you a bits and piece knowledge on the ARM template, but then again, if I touch the portal, Azure portal, I have to then go give you an understanding of how cloud things works. But yes, infrastructure as code is something that I have planned at the end of this session. I mean the course.
Okay. Okay, great. Thanks.
All right then. If you have any queries or doubts, please drop me in. I think you guys are added to the WhatsApp group as well. So let's meet tomorrow then.
Thank you so much
So
for your
guys,
time.
yeah, thanks all for joining. If anybody is interested to go ahead and then join the course, okay, please contact me. So we have only one demo session that is planned. So I hope you got a fair bit of idea as to what will be covered. How is the training from Hashim sir? It's good enough to take the call. So yes, so please contact me and so that you can proceed further. So we'll give a 1 day gap. So the regular sessions will start. So today is what? Today is the Friday, right? So regular sessions will start from Monday. So yeah, you have 2 days to decide whether you want to move it forward or proceed further. And thank you for joining, guys. Yeah. Any questions? You can WhatsApp me, the group admin, so you can see that, or you can respond back to an email which is available on our website, or WhatsApp me or call me. Feel free to do so. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thanks. Thanks. Bye.